You hear about it all the time on the news, right? GDP, gross domestic product. But what if I told you that this one number, this single metric, has the power to sway elections, justify wars, and totally reshape the world we live in? Well, today we are pulling back the curtain on this incredibly powerful and, you'll see, surprisingly controversial little number. Let's dive in.
To really get GDP, we have to go back in time, all the way back to the 1930s. The Great Depression was, of course, a complete economic disaster, but it was also something else. It was an information catastrophe.
I want you to imagine you're trying to pilot a giant ship through a Category 5 hurricane, but you're blindfolded. That is exactly what it was like for the government back then. They had no reliable way of knowing just how bad things were, or if their massive rescue plans, like the New Deal, were actually doing any good at all.
So, out of this chaos, this desperate need for a single clear number to guide them through the storm, came one of the most important economic inventions of the entire 20th century.
25 to 30%. That's how much the US economy is estimated to have collapsed during the Great Depression. A total free fall. But here's the crazy part. Back then, that number was just a guess. They could feel things were bad. I mean, they could see it all around them, but they had no way to actually measure it.
The solution, the answer to this problem, came from an economist named Simon Kuznets. The US government brought him in and basically said, "We need a number." And the metric he developed would not only help steer them out of the Depression, it would become a critical tool for planning and winning World War II.
And you know, the rise of GDP was incredibly fast. In 1934, Kuznets gets the job. Just a few years later, his idea becomes absolutely essential for the war effort, telling the US government exactly how many planes, tanks, and ships it could possibly produce. And then boom, by 1944, the whole world agrees at the Bretton Woods Conference to make it the global standard. Think about that. From a brand new idea to a world-shaping tool in just one decade.
So what is GDP exactly? It's the total market value of all final goods and services produced inside a country during a set period. Now that word final is absolutely key. GDP counts the price of the shiny new car you buy, but it doesn't count the steel, the tires, and the glass that went into making it. It's a really clever way to avoid counting the same things over and over again. But how can one single number possibly capture the incredible complexity of an entire country's economy? Well, it all boils down to a formula that's actually surprisingly straightforward. Okay, here it is. This is the most common way to tally it all up. C is for consumption, that's all the stuff households buy. I is for investment, that's what businesses spend. G is for government spending, and that last part, X minus M, that's just net exports, which is everything a country sells to the world minus everything it buys from the world. Simple as that. Now, to really see what this looks like in the real world, check out the US economy. See that huge purple slice, almost 70%? That's personal consumption. It just goes to show you that the everyday spending of regular people is, by a huge margin, the biggest engine driving the entire American economy.
All right, this next part is super important. Let's say your country makes 10 cars one year and 10 cars the next. But because of inflation, the price of each car doubled. Well, nominal GDP would say your economy grew by 100%. Sounds great, right? But did you actually make more stuff? Nope. And that's why we use real GDP. It strips out the effects of inflation so we can see if we're truly producing more. So from now on, whenever you hear about economic growth in the news, you'll know they're talking about real GDP.
Okay, so here's where our story takes a really fascinating twist. You'd think the man who invented GDP, Simon Kuznets, would be its biggest cheerleader, right? Well, not exactly. In fact, he was its first and maybe its most important critic.
Get this. He wrote these exact words in the very same report where he introduced the whole concept to Congress. I mean, from day one, Kuznets was shouting from the rooftops, "Hey, this thing I made measures economic output. It does not measure how well people are doing." He was terrified we'd get the two confused. And you know what? For the next 80 years, that's pretty much exactly what we did.
And that brings us right to GDP's massive blind spots. It gives zero credit to all the unpaid work that keeps society running, like raising a child or caring for a parent. It tells you nothing about inequality or how the economic pie is sliced up. And kind of weirdly, it can actually treat a total disaster as a good thing for the economy.
This is the classic example. A massive hurricane just devastates a coastal town. Tragic, right? Well, the billions of dollars spent on cleaning up and rebuilding, all of that gets added to GDP.
The number goes up, and it looks like growth. But are the people there better off? Of course not. They are just desperately trying to get back to where they were before the storm. It's a huge flaw in the logic.
So because of all these problems, there's now this huge global movement asking a really important question. Can we do better? Can we find a better way to measure progress? And the goal isn't to just throw GDP in the trash, but to stop acting like it's the only number that matters.
And this chart really shows you what that looks like. Instead of just looking at GDP, which only cares about economic output, you have alternatives. The Human Development Index, for instance, takes GDP and mixes in data on health and education. And the Genuine Progress Indicator goes even further. It starts with GDP, but then it subtracts the costs of bad things, like pollution or crime. It's all about painting a much richer, fuller picture.
And really, the general agreement now is to move towards what people are calling a dashboard approach. Think about the dashboard in your car. You don't just have a speedometer, right? You got a fuel gauge, an oil light, and engine temperature gauge. The idea is to do the same for a country. Keep GDP, but report on a whole bunch of other important things, like health, education, and the environment, right alongside it.
And that kind of leaves us with this final big question. For the better part of a century, we have built our entire societies around one main goal, making a single number go up. So if we start measuring other things like our well-being, the health of our planet, our happiness, with that same level of seriousness, what kind of world could we build then?